The dead ringer. The rain lashed relentlessly against the windows of Jonathan Lee's modest home on the outskirts of the city, a curtain of water that blurred the world beyond. Storms had always brought him a strange sense of peace, but tonight an inexplicable unease settled in his chest. He sank into his worn armchair, cradling a steaming cup of coffee, and switched on the television for the evening news. The anchor's voice cut through the static, grave and unyielding. Breaking news tonight. The body of 42-year-old inventor Jonathan Lee was pulled from the icy depths of the Hudson River this morning. The victim's face was severely disfigured from what appears to be a brutal beating. Police are investigating it as a homicide. Identification was confirmed through the wallet and personal items found on the body. The cup tumbled from Jonathan's grasp, shattering on the hardwood floor in a spray of shards and scalding liquid. He didn't flinch at the burn spreading across his leg. His gaze was riveted to the screen, where his own patent office photo stared back at him. His heart thundered like a drum in his ears. This had to be some grotesque error. He reached out, touching the glass of the TV as if to confirm his reflection. He was here, breathing, alive. So who, or what, had they fished from the river? Questions swirled in his mind like the storm outside. Was it a case of mistaken identity? A cruel prank? Or something far more malevolent? A harbinger of danger aimed directly at him? He paced the room, the floor creaking under his feet, debating whether to call the authorities. How absurd it would sound. "Hello, I'm not dead," the knock echoed through the house at precisely 9 a.m. the following morning. Sharp, insistent. Jonathan opened the door to find two detectives standing on his porch, their expressions a bewildering mix of skepticism and curiosity. Detective Harris, the taller one with a mustache, cleared his throat. "Mr. Lee, we, need to talk to you about your reported death." They escorted him to the police station first, then to the morgue, a sterile chamber reeking of formaldehyde and finality. The coroner pulled back the white sheet with clinical detachment. There lay a body identical in stature to Jonathan's. Same broad shoulders, same lanky frame, even the same calloused hands from years of tinkering with gadgets. But the face... Oh God, the face was a ruined mass of bruised flesh and broken bones, unrecognizable, pulverized. Jonathan staggered back, his stomach twisting in revulsion. "That's not me," he murmured, voice barely audible. The detectives exchanged glances. "Clearly," Lopez replied, her tone measured. "But we need your DNA to figure out who it is and why he had your wallet." The days waiting for the results were torture. Endless, sleepless nights where every shadow in the corner of his eye seemed to shift. Every gust of wind against the house sounded like whispered threats. Jonathan couldn't concentrate on his inventions. Prototypes gathered dust in the garage, forgotten. He jumped at every phone ring, every car passing by too slowly. When the call finally came, it hit like a thunderclap. "Mr. Lee, the DNA is a match for an identical twin. Your brother." Jonathan collapsed into a chair, the report crumpling in his fist. A twin? Impossible. He had been adopted as an infant. The papers never mentioned a sibling. His adoptive parents, long deceased, had never breathed a word. Who was this ghost from his bloodline? And why had he died wearing Jonathan's identity? That night, sleep evaded him entirely. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a trap. Walls closing in, ceilings pressing down. Was the killer still out there, believing the job done? Or had they realized their error and were coming to finish it? Driven by a gnawing need for truth, Jonathan dove into research. Hours hunched over his computer, scouring public records, hacking into sealed adoption files with software he had invented years ago. Piece by piece, the puzzle emerged. His biological mother had given birth to twins in a rundown hospital. Overwhelmed and destitute, she kept one son, Michael, and surrendered the other, Jonathan, to an affluent couple. Michael's life had been a stark contrast, a trail of foster homes marred by abuse, juvenile detentions, then adult convictions for forgery and scams. He had vanished from records 2 years ago, around the time Jonathan noticed anomalies in his finances. Bank statements revealed the betrayal. Thousands siphoned from accounts, credit lines maxed out on lavish expenses in dive bars and motels Jonathan had never visited. Michael had discovered his twin's success and decided to leech from it, forging documents, impersonating him to the hilt. But the question burned hottest. Who had killed Michael, and why disguise it as Jonathan's death? Unable to bear the uncertainty, Jonathan hired a private investigator. The name sent a chill through Jonathan. Victor Russo, notorious for his brutality, bodies vanishing without trace. Had Russo's men mistaken Michael for him? Or was it deliberate, a way to pressure the real Jonathan into settling the debt? The paranoia escalated that very night. Jonathan lay in bed, eyes wide in the darkness, when a floorboard creaked downstairs. Not the usual settling of the house, but deliberate, stealthy. His breath caught. He slipped from the covers, grabbing a heavy flashlight from the nightstand, its weight a meager comfort. Creeping down the stairs, each step agonizingly slow to avoid noise, he reached the living room. The window was ajar, rain blowing in, cabinets rifled, papers strewn, and on the coffee table, carved into the wood with a knife. "We know you're not dead. Pay or join him." Terror clawed at his throat. He slammed the window shut, bolted the doors, but sleep was impossible. The killer, or killers, knew the truth. The twin mix-up hadn't fooled them for long. Days blurred into a haze of fear. Locks reinforced, security cameras installed, yet the shadows persisted. Another night, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Closer this time. Jonathan hid behind the bedroom door, flashlight raised like a club. The knob turned slowly. The door inched open. A dark figure slipped in, rummaging through his desk. Jonathan's grip tightened, but the intruder paused as if sensing him, then fled down the stairs. Jonathan gave chase, but the front door banged shut before he could catch up. Left behind on the desk, a faded photo of two infant boys, identical, cradled by a young woman. Their mother. On the back, scrawled in shaky hand, "Brother, why didn't you help?" Guilt mingled with dread. Michael had reached out, somehow, before the end. But how? He was dead. DNA proved it. The intrusions stopped, but the weight pressed heavier. Jonathan couldn't live like this. Hunted, haunted. With Frank's address in hand, he steeled himself and drove to the dingy bar where Russo reigned. A den of smoke and low mutters, eyes following him as he entered. Russo sat in a corner booth, a hulking figure with a jagged scar snaking down his cheek, exuding the calm menace of a predator. Jonathan approached, legs like lead. "You killed my twin, thinking he was me." Russo's eyes flicked up, widening in shock, then narrowing to slits. He leaned back, a slow smile spreading. "Well, damn. The dead man walks." "Yeah. The guy came to me, called himself Jonathan Lee, borrowed 50 grand on some invention scheme. Said if he couldn't pay, his rich twin would cover it. We thought it was a lie, until he skipped. My boys found him, beat the truth out, then finished it. Dumped him with your ID still in his pocket. Figured it'd tie up loose ends. But here you are." Jonathan's mind reeled. Michael had set him up, even in death. "But the debt," Russo growled, leaning forward. "It's yours now, family ties and all." Jonathan backed away, heart slamming. He fled the bar, tires screeching as he sped to the police station. He spilled everything, The twin, the debt, Russo's confession. Warrants were issued. Russo arrested within hours, charged with murder. The nightmare, seemingly over. But back in the silence of his home, as the rain started anew, Jonathan sat in the dark, a secret festering. You see, he had known about Michael long before the body surfaced. 6 months earlier, Michael had shown up at his door, disheveled, desperate. "Brother, I found you. Help me. The debts are crushing me." Jonathan, protective of his quiet life, his reputation, turned him away coldly. But when the bank drains began, he hired his own tracker, found Michael's squalid hideout. In a fit of rage and fear, he made an anonymous call to Russo's operation. "Your debtor, Jonathan Lee, he's hiding at 45 Elm Street. Not the real one, but he'll do." He knew the violence that would follow, knew it would end in blood. He had set the trap, guided the killers to his own flesh and blood, the whispers in the walls, his conscience echoing forever. You've been listening to Dead Air, a not true crime production. See you next time.